Mmm, soft. Well, hello there, nieces and nephews. Bonjour. So today I am making some honey wheatberry bread. Now, the last time I recorded making this was back before I even had a microphone to record for you guys, let alone know how to edit videos. So we're redoing this so that you guys can have an updated with audio and everything. So in this part, I'm going to also clip out into another video, maybe, I don't know yet. But we are going to make honey wheatberry bread, which is a whole grain, whole wheat bread that uses wheat berries, which is basically the top that gets put into other, milled into other parts. It also has like the wheat germ and things like that, or did. And you want to rinse them. We are going to bring 2 cups of water to a boil. And while that comes to a boil, no salt. I'm going to go and take care of a couple of other things. So, while this comes to a boil, the thing about this is I'm going to do this in the bread machine after we boil this. It's going to take about 1.5 hours to 2 hours of boiling the wheat berries before we do. Kind of like dried beans and lentils. You kind of want to boil them or soak them for a while before you go using them. And the reason I say 1.5 hours to 2 hours is you want to boil them until they start to pop open, at least some of them. Kind of like when you boil corn or something like that. Okay, it's starting to come to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding them now. Now, once you bring this to a boil, we're going to go ahead and reduce it down to a simmer, which is kind of the lowest setting on your stove if you're not familiar with that. And I mean, not everybody is. So we'll check back on this in about 1.5 hours to 2 hours. Actually, I will be checking on it more often than that, but we'll probably be back in about 1.5 hours. Until then, have fun. And don't forget, down below, hit that like button, please. Even if you're not subscribing, at least please hit the like button. And then stick around. Watch it all the way through. If you don't want to actually watch it, go ahead and just set it to let it play and go on about doing other things. But please, watch this all the way through. And don't forget to hit the like button. It really does help out. So, I'll be back in a little while. Welcome back. So, it's been about 1.5 hours. And a lot of them are popping open, which means that they are ready now and done. So I'm going to take it off the heat. But you kind of want to use a fine mesh strainer for this. So this is the only one I've got. I don't have a colander style that sits in the sink on its own. So I'm going to go ahead and use that. Put those back up out of the way. Dangers of a small kitchen. Things don't always have a place. So, I am going to go ahead and let those sit for a little bit and cool. You don't want them too hot when you start the machine, so we'll be back in about 30 minutes. It should take about that long for them to cool down enough. Because right now, if I was to mix them in with the yeast and such, even if I proofed the yeast first, which I will be doing, that would kill them. That would kill the yeast right now, as hot as it is. So, we'll be back in a half hour. During that time, I'm going to go ahead and set up the bread machine, and then we'll just get started from there. So see you in about 30 minutes. Okay, so like I said, we're at the part 2. Although it's going to be one video. Don't worry. So starting this off, we're adding our cooked wheat berries to the pan. And behind me I have the kettle going, heating up some water, although it's probably warm enough at least to start with. We're going to do up our yeast with our honey. So I'm putting 1 cup of water, which is almost to boiling temperature, so it's way too hot for the yeast at the moment. Okay, so we're going to take a candy thermometer to make sure that our water is not over 110 degrees, which I know it is. But while it's cooling down to start with, I'm going to add my honey to the water. Just the honey. Not our yeast yet. If we add our yeast, it's too soon. So to the 1 cup of hot water, I just added 3 tablespoons of honey. Yeah, it's about 130 degrees right now for the water, so yeah, it's a little too warm. I think I'm going to try speeding it up a little bit here. So now to that we are going to add our 1 tablespoon of yeast. Let's go ahead and getting this all stirred together. Okay. Now we're going to give that a couple of minutes and see if it gives us some bubbles. Now this yeast isn't all that old, so I'm pretty sure it's going to. Okay. Now that we've got some foam, tells us our yeast is working, we're going to go ahead and add this to the pan. And get as much in there as possible. Go ahead and give that a little bit of a stir. Now to that, we're going to also add in 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And while yes, I know that there's vinegar is a liquid, I'm going to start actually adding all of my powders first, because I want the acids and the salt to be last, because yeast and them don't really like to get along. And there's no milk in this, no egg. So 3/4 of a cup of whole wheat flour, 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, or you can use bread flour if you want, 2 tablespoons of instant potato flakes, 3 tablespoons of powdered milk. So this is why there is no actual milk in there. Then on top of that, we are putting in 2 tablespoons of wheat gluten, also sometimes referred to as vital gluten or vital wheat gluten. And now we're going to go ahead and add in our 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. Okay, 2 teaspoons of white vinegar. And we're just going to put that on our dough cycle, and we're going to hit start. Now, yes, I said dough cycle, which means it's not going to bake in the pan. We will be pulling it out here in a little while. And we will put it into an actual loaf pan and let it rise one more time before we bake it. But let's go ahead and watch this as it starts its mixing, because I want to make sure that there's good elasticity to the dough. You don't want it too wet or too dry. Now actually let it mix for a few minutes before you go trying to determine if you needed to put more water in, because I've seen it this dry before. It actually form up a nice dough ball. Although with the weather as it's been lately, I wouldn't be surprised if I need to add just a little bit more water. I'm going to need just a little bit more water, just a tiny bit. Okay, altogether I've probably only added about an extra tablespoon so far. And maybe about another 2 teaspoons. Yes, you want to make sure your bread machine is well centered on your counter, or at least I have actually seen one walk off a counter, so to speak, and fall to the floor because of mixing the dough so vigorously. Okay, so now it's going to take its first rest, which will be the first dough proof, at which point in about a half hour to 40 minutes I will pull it out, work it into the right shape, and put it into the bread pan and let it rise again. So why don't we go ahead and meet back when it's risen some. See you in about a half hour. Well, nieces and nephews, the bread machine has finished its dough cycle, and it has definitely risen quite a bit, as you can see. So give a minute and I will get this out of the way, and we will put it into the pan. Now, those of you that know me or have watched my other videos know that I don't like to bake the bread actually in the bread machine. A couple of different reasons. First is, though, that the seal at the bottom around the ring that is the crank spindle obviously doesn't last forever. Not baking in it makes it last a lot longer. My mom has worn out, or had worn out, many a machine before the pan gave way. So I think she's only had a few pans give out after she found out about that. So let's go ahead and prep our pan. Put a little bit of flour on there, and I'm just going to go ahead and use a bit of the whole wheat just because and this is also a reason for doing this, is this way you can pull this paddle piece out before the bread gets baked. Otherwise you have to pull that out of the loaf after it's baked. So just take this, go ahead and work it a little bit, and what we're just going to do is roll it into a kind of a log here. Don't need to work on it a whole lot here. And we want to let this rise another 45 minutes to an hour, depending on what it needs, in order to get up to just about an inch, inch and a half above the top of the pan. So I'm going to put this on top of my preheating oven. Go ahead and get your oven going by now, hopefully, to 375 degrees Fahrenheit. And I'm going to set this on top and cover it. Well, it's been about 20 minutes actually, and it has risen substantially. I'm just worried though that there's going to be a giant air bubble in the middle. So we're going to bake this for about a half hour now at 375. So I will be back in a half hour. See you then. Well, it's been about a half hour or so, and it's definitely looking done. Definitely sounds hollow, so it should be done. We will give it about 15 minutes, and then I will pull it out and onto the rack. So, don't forget, down in the description, there's going to be a copy of the recipe as well as a link to the printable. Go ahead and download that printable, print it on your yourself, and put it in your recipe book. Or keep an ear out. I'll be launching a recipe book for breads as well as cookies and other things available through Amazon. So look forward to doing that for you guys. But again, hit the like. Go ahead and hit the subscribe and join the tribe. And then go ahead and click that notification bell and set it for all. That way when I do other uploads, like I've got a turkey brine coming out here soon, as well as roasting the turkey, as well as some other bread recipes. I'll also be doing Yorkshire pudding this year, so look for how to do that. That is another bread. So look forward to putting out some more videos, and look forward to hearing from you about what you think of them. Bonne soirée, bon appetit. Good evening. Soft.